Davis. I started with Pac Bell, and I think it was January 11th, 1955. I started in Southern California. I was an installer, repairman. Worked 2 years outside, and went into the switch room, became a switchman, changing and working on all the switching equipment, step by step, crossbar. SAMA was a big thing where they build you automatically for long distance calls back in those days. Fixed any kind of equipment I could find around. That was mainly my thing. Then I got promoted to management a few years later and went downtown LA, and we were responsible for designing switching offices. And my people were designers, and I was more the make sure they got done right. So. And then 2 or 3 years in a facility system was a dream we had going on, and everybody in the office had we had 200 people in the organization, and everybody in the office had to take a test to see if they were compatible to fitting into a programming environment. And I said, well, I don't want to go. I like it where it is, so I'm not taking any tests. They said, you're a manager, you got to take a test. Well, anyway. And I didn't want to move because I just bought a house in Long Beach, and I liked it out here. So anyway, I ended up taking the test, and about 15 or 20 of us passed the test, the other 200 or what it was didn't. So anyway, then they said that, well, they looked at the backgrounds, and then the EVPs or division levels came down and interviewed people and offered jobs. And I talked to one Bates, was I think in the division that level at the time. I talked to him in the office there for about 4 hours. 2 hours I told him I'm not very interested in going leaving. I like the idea, but I don't want to move. And then the second 2 hours he talked me into, well, going. So anyway, I took the move there. I went up as I was still first level manager. Went up there and we worked on, needed training, so everybody came into the project. 60 of us came in from all over Brazil, and went through a whole month of training. We went anywhere from 10 to 12 hours every day for 5 days, and every 2 to 3 days we had to take a test to see if you were going along. So the longest was about 3 days, sometimes 2 days. So the people that got out of it after a month of this stuff went into their environment. The only problem is we learned how to do some basic programming, but when we went out, they didn't really have anything to do it with or on any design or anything else. So we spent a lot of time wasting our time that we just learned. We couldn't use it, so it was like, I felt like at that time I felt like going back where I was, where it came from, because it's so boring. So after about 6 months, I'm not happy with not doing anything. They finally got us into the programming environment, and we used several different things. That was before COBOL, we were doing things. Then we went into COBOL and working on the FS design. I had several programs in the FS design, it's FW, BB, and I actually wrote on the thing for the thing. And then I worked with a group for the whole system. I pretty much knew how all the programs worked and what they were doing in and out. And so after we got things going, we turned after 2 years of designs and building and everything turned up in LA instead of San Francisco. We had major problems because Chuck Palomeros and myself, stuff worked pretty good because our programs had to talk to each other, and we sat by each other, and we made sure we did things right between us. But some of the people had things that had to communicate with other things, and they never talked to the people working on it, so there was a lot of communication problems when they turned it up. So they spent about 6 months trying to get it working. They finally got it working fairly good, but fixing problems. Then this was 1966, it came up, it turned it up about 68, got it working by the end of 68. We spent a long time in LA making sure it worked. Then we got it up, working, everybody finally started to get used to using it. Then all the people left, and about 10 of us stayed there and worked on the system some more, upgrading them and so forth. And then people started hiring new people in to run and maintain the system. So our group grew and grew and grew. and then we had all the users, engineering, traffic, all the different people who use the system. Coming with requests, and we'd modify the system and the programs and whatever we needed to make it work for their request. Anyway, that's sort of where my background on that is. Although I worked pretty much like, I had 34 years when I left. Retired. I came back and worked about 6.5, 7 years on a contract after retired on the facility system. Eventually, the facility system was replaced, and I'm not really sure what the name was anymore. So I was gone by then. So anyway, that's sort of my background. The system itself. Now, the facility system, I really came in March of 1966, and stayed with it until. Actually, I was related to one way or another, except for some other projects. I was a year or two in between, like when we separated assets, Bell Systems had to separate that. I was assigned to a special process for a year that I had to go out and work a project and decide how we're going to do this, then make sure the conversion worked and so forth. But basically, I stayed there the rest of my term at Pacific Bell. Retired in 1987 is when I retired. And then I went back and I retired again in 1994 the last time I did anything. Get back now. The facility system, I was actually, the first few years I was actually a programmer at the time. Whatever the changes went on and so forth. And then I got promoted to second level manager, and they gave me a group, and then problem is they still had me doing programming and running a group. And I finally told them I'm going to do one or the other, leave me alone. Let me run the group or let me program or I couldn't go. Well, they left me to the group. So I sort of had to, but I was very lucky in my time as that because I had, I'd say 99% of the people who worked for me were great people, like good programmers. I had very few people that couldn't cut the grade. And I was also lucky in a way because after I talked to them, they decided to leave without being fired. So I was real happy about that. I didn't want to fire them. I only had 2 people that were questionable all the time I was there. I probably went through, programmers-wise, I probably went through 40 or 50 programmers over a period of time. 1 or 2 would come in every year or this and that. So when they memories, what memories I have, great to that. They reflect all the times of the hard times getting it up and upgrading it. We ended up having weekend runs, so I had to assign people on like a control flow change, bulb change, facility planning. They ran all weekend. They ever make one mistake, you could lose the whole thing, which was not very acceptable to the VPs in charge of their groups that were waiting for the results. So we were always under the gun. So you got to be tough sometimes. So it worked out pretty good. I enjoyed my own time. Last year or two, the company changed its policy about managers making decisions, and they were pretty much told what they had to do rather than let them make their own. And I wasn't very, the last year or two, I wasn't happy with the way it was arranged. So I didn't mind being penalized if I made a bad decision. I didn't want somebody else to help me to make a decision and it didn't work, I'd still be penalized. So I prefer to run my own group, and I did for many years. Very active in engineering in the last probably 5-10 years. Anyway, that's about my story. Some of the other people there are Chuck Palomares. He worked on it for a long time. He came in, we were partners for a long time when we first started. We worked together and a lot of stuff. And AJ Hooper, my cubicle was AJ Hooper, Chuck Palomares, Ed Johnson. There's 4 of us in that cubicle. Our boss when I started was Barnhill. And then later, Barnhill after Long was our boss, and Long got promoted to the division level. And then I worked for Gruber for a while, and I worked for Gagan for a while, and I worked for quite a few different district level managers. Joe Mason was a good friend of mine. He was a standard, so I worked for him for a while. And basically that's all I did. And my life went by. My kids grew up, and they're all married, and all got kids. So that's where we are now. And right now I'm 79, and my wife and I have been married for 60 years this year. In September, 60 years. I'll be 80 next year, 30 next year. That's what it is. Hopefully I'm still around the field.
Hi, I'm Nancy Montano Roberts, and I started with Facility Systems in the beginning in 1965. And my background was doing the conversion with the central offices, getting all the coding for common language, and eventually working with design engineering, developing training, and instructing, worked very closely with facility system programmers. And I left in 1984 and did some contract work back, and actually married one of the programmers.
Bonus. And that would be me. I'm Brian Roberts. I came to Pacific Bell Facility System as a contractor in 1981. I worked as a contractor for a year. They brought me on to write development for the conversion of the completely batch system, facility system. They're putting an online front end for the data collection and interrogation for inventories. So I did first program I did, which was the best one I did, was for the equipment inventory. So I left in a buyout in the year 2000. Let's see. I did some security work within the facility system group. Did a lot of maintenance, none of which comes to mind because I didn't enjoy it that much. Retired shortly after I left facility system. As Nancy said, we met on the job. Within the first year, started dating, and we're still together. We're about to have our 31st anniversary.
So Facility System has a lot of great memories for us. We made a lot of really good friends with programming people, and in traveling around California to actually do a lot of the testing in the local areas. It was a fun group, and we were together a really long time. So it was really nice to get together today to see a lot of the people we hadn't seen in 15 or 20 years.
That's pretty much my takeaway for the experience of working with the team, facility system team, is the tightness of the group. Everybody cared for each other, looked out for each other. It was a very good time. I enjoyed it a lot. Like as Nancy said, it's great to see so many familiar faces, wearing their new wisdom lines and so on. But we had a good time.